All right, good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining me. I believe you can hear me. I want to welcome you. Good evening, and we'll be starting very shortly. Okay, I'm hoping by 400 dots it should take off. Okay, okay, all right, interesting. Hi, good to see you. Okay, Joy, good evening. Fumi Layo, good evening. Abdurrahman, good evening, everybody on this call. Welcome. All right, good evening once again, and welcome. All right, so time is 4:01. I really think we should start, and then so others will join us as we proceed. Okay, we have quite a number of things, interesting things to talk about this evening, and then so the earlier we start, the better. Okay. All right, so good to have us on the first session for this masterclass 1.0, and today, of course, is the very first session that we'll be having. Okay, and I'm glad to have everybody join. Interestingly, I've been looking forward to having everybody. Okay, all right, so let me start by talking about the expectations. Okay, and I'll be correct. It's a ground rules. Okay. All right. So from the registration, I was able to get the learning expectations of individuals. Okay. So I was able to comb through and see what everybody actually looked forward to learning from this program. Okay. And so that's in itself has influenced whatever discussions that we'll be having. Okay. All right. So I also have my personal expectation, of course, from everybody. Okay. So one of the things that I know is that there's a different kind of reaction to a paid program than a free program. Okay. All right. But I wouldn't want us to take it with levity. Somebody is writing on my screen. Please kindly undo. Okay. Yes. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So I am looking forward to everybody attending all of the sessions, because if you look at what we have, you would see that these topics are sequential. It means that whatever we'll be discussing today actually has a tie to the subsequent conversations, and then so you can actually see mode 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so all of these topics have been arranged in sequence. Okay, so what we'll be discussing today is fundamental to our discussion next week, and for all of the other sessions that we would be having. Okay, so I'm expecting that everybody would encourage me by attending. That's one. Two, I am looking forward to your participation, because everybody on the session right now, we are adults, and there's this interesting fact that I like very much about adult learning, all right? Because the fact that every adult comes into a learning session with a certain level of experience. Okay, so that's why I was asking during the registration for you to assess yourself based on your current Excel skills. Very interestingly, I was seeing different scores, ranging from 1 to 10. I saw one, a number of them, I saw 10 as well. I was like, wow, interesting. So whether you are on 4 or 7 or 8, irrespective of where you are, the major goal is that you want to push up. Okay, so if you're at 4, you want to ensure that by the end of this program, your Excel skill should actually move up. If it increases by 3 or by 2, fantastic. Okay, that will be my joy. And it means that we've actually got something achieved. Okay, right, so that's the expectation, that at the end of the 4 sessions, we would be able to not just learn, but we'll be able to transfer this learning to our respective endeavors, whether you are an employee, irrespective of your profession, whether you're a business person, irrespective of the type of business that you run. Okay, so I'm expecting that you encourage me, I also encourage you, and so let's see how much we can actually cover. But so that there's a disclaimer, okay? We cannot cover everything we need to know about Excel in these 4 sessions. In fact, if you look at our outlines, a number of things were not talked about, okay? But I'm hoping that if we can cover this, then I mean we've done a good job. Honestly, if we can actually cover what we have done a good job. And so taking today for example, I have gone ahead to expand a bit what we have as an outline, all right? But let me start by telling us that all through this program, for no particular reason, we'll be using Excel 2016, okay? So you must have one of these three. I believe everybody can see my screen, okay? So you must have one of these three. The first one is the standalone program, okay? You can actually buy, you know, the Excel, Microsoft Excel program itself, or you can have it as part of the applications on the Office suite, okay? Or you have it as a standalone as well. Sorry, as part of the Office 365, which you call Pro Plus, okay? One of the benefits of Pro Plus is actually the fact that you are privileged to periodic updates, okay? So as many updates that come on the application, if you are using Office 365, whether for Excel, for PowerPoint, or for any of those applications in the suite, you would be privileged to the regular updates. Okay, so it's very important that I lay this foundation that you should have. Actually put most, because if you want to actually, because all of our conversations in this program is actually going to be based on that. Okay. All right. So these are the things we'll be considering. We might have to expand them as we progress. Okay. We'll start with what looks like the basics. Okay. When we collected registration, the number of persons actually rated themselves differently from what you had rated yourself. So um, everything cannot be tailored to one person's needs. So certain things that we'll be talking about might be very fundamental, it might be very basic to you. It doesn't make it is basic to other persons. As a matter of fact, I was having a session earlier today, and at the end of the session, when I collected feedback, some persons were still of the opinion that the things that we talked about were too advanced, But looking at it, uh, it was an attempt to start from the basic and we progress, okay? So you can actually see the sequence. We start from the structures, basic things like data types, Excel table, proper data sets, formula and formula errors, formula elements, formula types, and then we'll go properly into Excel functions. So we'll talk about functions like date and time, test functions and formula, and a whole lot of other functions like lookup and reference, And then so we progress, we have a very good time talking about conditional statement and logical operators, data validations, and we'll see all the types of references that we can actually have. And then from there, we'll use our knowledge of formula errors and all of that to clean our data, because you must be able to you must be able to transform your raw data into a meaningful one so that you can actually make decisions, right? So the whole essence of all of this is move from basics and then to move on into other concepts like pivot table, Power Query, which is also called get and transform, and then we'll talk about Power Pivot and the data model. And then we'll run through some assignments. Okay, so at the end of this session, we would have assignments, that I'll post to you, and it's very important. And so it is part of you encouraging me that you would do these assignments, okay? All right, so we would have a personal project that I'm going to post to you, and then we'll do them. At the end of the day, we should not just have knowledge on all of these things, but by the time we lay our hands on the project, on the assignments, we would be able to reinforce our learning. Like I said, you cannot know so much about Excel until you start doing, until you start using it, all right? And because of the vast application, whether you are an HR professional like myself, or you are in finance, or you are a marketer, or you're in customer service, irrespective of you're a business person, there's so much applications that Excel can actually afford us. Okay, so these are the things that we're learning today. We'll just run through some of these 12 items, and they are quite they have subdivisions under them. that we'll also consider as we progress. So the question is, what does Excel do? What Excel does in itself? All right, so we're going to talk about two major things. There are different other things that you might actually know Excel to be used for. I was reading an article some time ago, I think last month, and then so somebody was using Excel to draw, like your normal artwork, very beautiful drawing. I was like, wow, that was very meticulous, But these are not the things that we're learning on this program. What we want to learn basically is how to use Excel to make calculations and to perform data analysis. Okay, all right. So we use Excel for a number of things, but basically we use it for calculations and data analysis. So let me just run you through samples of calculations and analysis that we use Excel for. Then we'll progress into other part of the topic. Okay. All right. So this is an example of what you can what a calculation that you can do with Excel. So what we call numeric calculation. Numeric calculation basically means that you are performing calculations with numbers. Okay. So I have here, this is a training fee. Okay. Training fee that is VAT inclusive, and you are meant to calculate the VAT. Right. So imagine this is just a roll of data, but imagine if you have 1,000 of these. Okay, so how we do this? So basically what we do is to put our variable as a number that can actually change. Okay, so that's the tax rate, and that's what I put here. Please just follow my cursor, So I have a number of things displayed, but the cursor would actually guide you to know part of the worksheet that we're actually using at the moment. Okay, all right, so this is an example of a calculation that can be done, and then basically what you do, we're not actually particular about the calculation itself, but at the moment, because we are going to look at a whole number of examples on how to run all of these calculations. But we can actually see from here that you can use your Excel to make a numeric calculation. So what I did here is to multiply this by this, all right? And then so next one is a logical calculation. Logical calculations are calculations, they're also called Boolean calculations. They're calculations that are based on facts like true or false, and all of those. So for example, look at this example. This guy is an employee, say is a maybe a call center rep, and then so the minimum call allowed per day, say before you close, depending on the scenario is 45. This guy made 56 calls. So we want to see if he has actually met expectation or not. Basically, what we do is to perform a logical calculation. And then so I'll just run through the calculation and then we'll progress. So what I do is to punch in the equal sign. It's very basic anyway, but every time you punch in your equal sign to Excel, you're already telling Excel that, hey, I want to make a calculation. So in the brain of Excel, is already preparing for whatever other element that you actually posted, but is prepared to make a calculation, right? So what I do is I'm asking this, is it greater or equal to this? That's just simple. And it's saying yes, true. So this guy actually met expectation, right? So imagine we have a whole number of other employees with their records. You can actually just run it through down, and we have our record. Okay, all right. So we have test calculation as an example. For example, my first name is Olabisi. If I enter Olabisi, I've actually pre-formatted this, but just watch what would happen. All right. So my surname is Daniel. Now, by the time I enter, okay, here, okay, pre-formatted has been taken away. Okay, so let me just do it for you. Okay, so I have Olabisi and Daniel, but I want to have them together. Okay, so I can have this, right, and a space, all right, okay, and then so I have this. What's happening? What's happening? My cursor is moving around. Please, can you see my screen? Just post to me in the chat box. Hello, can anybody see my screen? Oh, okay, thank you, Steven, thank you. Okay, all right. Oh, thank you. I don't know if someone is dragging my screen or my cursor or something. Okay, all right, so I have this calculation here. Let me just save this for I have an assignment that's related to this, but I don't want to post the book already. So we can actually join this. That's the example of test calculation. Now we have this data, okay? Now look at this. This is a proper data set. All right, we will look at what proper data set actually is shortly. But this is an example of a proper data set, okay, that you can actually convert to a table, and then from the table you can make other transformations, like you can convert to a pivot table, right? So pivot table is one of the things that we'll look at in the fourth module, okay? All right, but I'm just trying to tell us, say this is a company, this is a multinational company that has staff all across the world, you know. So this data, I have over 300 staff, okay, on this, okay, and then so their sales rep, these are the vehicles they sold, and this is the amount, all right. Now this is looking very neat because it has actually been converted, but I will show you examples of raw data very shortly, and then you'll be able to see the difference between a proper data set and a raw data, okay. But my point on this sheet is actually to tell us that Excel can be used to make calculations. We'll see a whole lot of examples on calculations, okay? And then we can actually run data analysis, okay? All right, so let's talk about the structure of the Excel application. And a whole number of things that we can also talk about here, but let's just see the ones that time would have afforded us. Please don't write on the screen. I can see somebody attempting to write, okay? All right, so Excel as an application, you know, has what we call the worksheets. So the worksheet can be likened to the pages of your book, and then the pages together sum up the book, right? So we call this, what you are seeing on display now is a worksheet. You can see I've actually been moving between worksheets, okay? But the worksheets all together, this application that is open is called a workbook, all right? And then so the workbook, you can actually see the name of the workbook, Excel Masterclass Module 1, okay? All right, you can see the worksheet. The worksheet is comprised of cells, okay? We'll talk about cells, but you can see the worksheet name, structure, right? What Excel does, outline, these are worksheet names. I can actually edit them by double clicking here, and you know, I edit, all right? So you move in between worksheets in the book, in the workbook, all right? So we have what we call columns and rows. Columns are what you can see here. You can see this H, they are numbered in alphabets, all right? And then we have rows in numbers. So the intersection between the two, these points, for example, this H and 8, all right, is a cell, all right? So all in between the worksheets, you have cells, right? And then so everywhere you click, you can always look at the name box, this place, tell you the name of the cell on which you have clicked, all right? Whatever you are inputting into the cell can be displayed in what we call the formula bar, all right? And then so you can scroll in between all these worksheets by just clicking your control page up or page down, okay? Page up or page down, all right? Now you can see this arrow. This arrow is telling me that I have some more worksheets on this side, on the right side. So I can right click on it and it shows me all the worksheets that I have. So instead of having to scroll one after the other, I can just click on the exact one that I want to actually open, all right? So we have our tabs, what we see here, home, insert, layout, formulas, and all of those. So you can see as I click on each, they change, right? So these changes actually open us to what we call the group, all right? So for example, I have home, and I have number group. This is the number group where I can do number formatting, okay? This is the style group where I can do style formatting. This is the alignment group where I can do alignment. Okay. All right. So we'll see this font, and then so we'll see a whole lot of examples as we progress. All right. So back to the structure. Now, one of the things that we really want to be able to do with Excel is to achieve what we call efficiency. All right. So it means if I have the knowledge of Excel and you don't have, it means if we have equal tasks to perform with my Excel in running calculations and performing data analysis, I should be able to achieve my results faster than you do. So it means I am using minimal resources like time to achieve the desired results than somebody that does not have the knowledge of this application. So let's see what efficiency and effectiveness actually means to us in Excel. All right. So, for example, um, this is an example of a data set. You know, I have employees and I have the items sold phone. Right. So I want to calculate the number of Samsung phones that were sold. Now, because this is a very small data, you can actually calculate it by just counting. But imagine if you have hundreds of these. Okay, so look at what I did. I use a function called COUNTIF. So COUNTIF would actually count the number of the item based on the criteria that I actually set. Okay, but look at this. I want your response in the chat box. Looking at this alone, how many Samsung phones were sold? Just post your answer to me, okay? All right, 3. Thank you, Kelechi. 3 Samsung phones were sold. All right, but if you look at my record there, I'm actually seeing 2, so it means something is wrong. All right, so if I click on it, double click on it, or press F2. F2 is going to show you the underlying formula for that calculation, right? We've started learning about keyboards and shortcuts already. But I can actually see, so Excel has what we call color coding. You can actually see this blue color is telling you the arguments, all right, that is attributed to this color. So for example, you can see criteria range is actually highlighting this, but you can see that it has neglected one. So it means that there's an error. Now, remember it was 2 there, but since I dragged and covered this Samsung and I click enter, it updates automatically. So it means that I have just been able to achieve effectiveness in the sense that I was able to accomplish the stated goal, but that's not enough, okay? We want to be able to do this with the minimal resource of time, okay? So for example, let's look at, now I'm going to share this document, but not today, okay? I'll talk about sharing and all of that probably after the session, but there are certain things here that I'll just put a note and it will be very explanatory for you, okay? Okay, all right, so for example, now I have this data and I want to calculate the total sales made, right? Now, if I click on this and press F2, or even from your formula bar, you can actually see what this guy did, all right? And then I can imagine if somebody works like this, how many calculations you'll be able to make in a day, all right? Anthony, please, you're writing on my screen. Please delete that. Thank you. All right, so you can actually see the method of this calculation is going to produce the results, but it will take a whole lot of time. Imagine you have 200, 1,000, 10,000 of sales records to add together. But for me to achieve efficiency, I will use shortcuts, not just shortcuts. I will use the inbuilt Excel functions. Okay. All right. So we'll see some shortcuts some keyboard shortcuts that we can use. But let me just tell us about this. So we have what we call Alt equal. Alt equal. So once you press Alt equal, you're already telling Excel, hey, I want to make a sum calculation. So Excel is looking around that cell that you punched Alt equal and is looking for numbers or tests or logical logical tests to calculate, but this is not where I want to calculate, all right? So I can bring my cursor here and drag, all right, and press enter. Did I get the answer? Yes. Can I always add to this? Yes, we'll see some of these methods. So what we want to achieve with our knowledge is the ability of ease, so that you can perform calculations and analysis, data analysis in the shortest time possible for you. All right. So you can imagine if I have 1,000 record here. Now let me delete this and I'll show you another method. All right. So if I press enter, sorry, equals tells Excel I want to make a calculation. Now there are inbuilt functions. So if I press SUM, I want to make a sum. Now, Excel is looking at the inbuilt functions and suggesting to me one of them that I actually want. So I can see my sum, all right? And then, so I'll press tab and I'll go here, click on this, hold your Control Shift and go down. Automatically, it highlights everything. Now you can close and click enter. You have gotten your answer, right? So that's efficiency. It is very important that we must be able to use our knowledge of Excel to achieve efficiency. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on. All right, so shortcuts is very important. All right, if you check the Microsoft website, a whole lot of work, a whole lot of keyboard shortcuts that you can use. And some of these shortcuts you can actually use on other Microsoft applications. So, for example, how you bolding, how you do your underline, how you highlight, how you copy and paste, and all of those. These are some of the things that we can actually also do. But there are some that are peculiar to Excel. All right, so let me just run us through. I talked about control arrow, all right? Control home. Anywhere you're on your worksheet, once you press your control home, it is taking you to cell A1. So whether you are down, I can imagine how down it can go, all right? Wherever you are, whether you are on the 1000 cell, all right? If you just click control home, it's taking you back up. All right, so these are some of the ways, instead of having to click up, you know, you're just back and then you are up and doing, all right? So we have control end. We also will do the opposite of control home. It takes you to the last cell that you used, all right? Now we have a control shift arrow. That's what I did the other time to highlight my data, okay? I will show you an example just shortly. All right, so we have other ones, control backspace, you know, to jump back to the most active cell, you know, control one, this, we're going to use this a lot to open our cell dialog box, okay? All right, so we have control Z to undo, control Y to undo the undo, okay? And then we hold on, we want to open a pivot table, we want to create a table, you know, control T, we're going to use this as well. And then a number of other, why am I sharing this? Because if you always have to go through the group, the tabs to assess what you actually need, it will waste a lot of time, all right? So with your shortcut, you can, for example, with your Alt, once I click Alt, you can actually see what's happening. There are numbers, there are labels. So it already gives you the access to just click on the number or the label, the alphabet, and straight away you are going to where you desire, okay? So we would look at that. Now look at this data. It's an example of a long data set. I think should be about how many? Okay, this is 1000, okay, 1000 data sets. Now imagine I want to be clicking down. That means in about 5 minutes, I'm still clicking down, okay? But with your shortcut buttons, you can just hold your control shift and you click the down arrow, okay? You're down already. This is the last data set on, you can actually see from here, counts. I am highlighting 10,000 data sets, okay? This is a large one, right? And then so we have the dates beside them. Now let's go back up. Imagine I want to calculate the total sales record. You know, I'll just put my Alt equals that I used earlier. Now I told Excel, I want to make a sum calculation, It's looking around that cell to see the nearest place to find a number, and it's actually found here. So I'll click on it and hold my Control Shift arrow and then down, right? I'm holding everything. Now I hold Control equals, all right? Now Control, oh, I'm back up. You can actually see I've actually calculated. You can actually see from the field 1,000, 10,000 and 10,004th row. That's 10,000 data. All right. So with that, in the shortest time, you would be able to perform your calculation. All right. There's what we call the golden rule in Excel. The golden rule. All right. I have used this example earlier, and then so I will use it again. All right. If you have this as a training fee, and then you want to calculate the VAT on that training fee. Now, because tax rates can change, all right? So the golden rule is that any number or any formula, if the formula would change, then that variable itself should be put in a separate cell, all right? Such that if it changes, then you just update from there, and hey, your data updates automatically. So for example, I have this. Now look at it. This this is not effective. This is neither effective or anything because I have to be typing 0.075. I have to type 7.5% as a tax rate. But what if it changes? Do I have to come inside here and update and say 8%? No, I'll just update from here and my data updates automatically. You can actually see. So yes, so the golden rule is that if the number will change, not just number, test, anything in your formula, if it would change, then you put it into a cell and refer to it. That's what we call reference, okay? We'll talk about reference in the third session, all right? This is a cell reference. So in this cell, I'm making a calculation referencing this and this, all right? And then so it says that if a formula input will not change, you can actually tell. So imagine I want to calculate based on the number of hours in a day. We have 24 hours. Tomorrow, we're going to have 24 hours. Next tomorrow, every day would always be 24 hours, okay? And then so 24 hours is a fixed number. So you can actually put it if it is fixed. Now, the top thing under this rule is that you must label your input. So imagine if I take this off, all right? If I take this off and then maybe you are my manager or you are my client or you are my project colleague and I post this to you, all right? You might be wondering, even myself, that I type this, I can come tomorrow and I'll be like, what was it for? What was it for? Was it addition? Was it bonus that I was trying to calculate here? But by just labeling it, you already know that, okay, hey, this is tax rate. And anybody that takes up this document open to access, they will know that what you're trying to do here is actually to make a calculation based on the tax, all right? So that's the golden rule. And then we're going to maintain this rule. So this example, having to type this into your calculation is what we call hard coding, all right? And then hard coding, according to this article, of course, even though it can lead to errors, okay? So imagine I have to type, I have 1,000, like the other calculation we had, 10,000 records, and I have to be typing 7.5%, 7.6%, there are times I would make mistakes, all right? And then my sum total might not be correct or something would not be accurate. So it is very important that this rule be maintained. All right, I can see somebody raising hands. Please, can you post your question to me in the chat box so that I can read and so that I don't lose the flow of thoughts. I can read your question and respond to it, okay? All right, so I hope we are together. If you are following, please just type yes so that I would know that I'm not talking to myself. All right, thank you, Chimize. All right, so what we've talked about so far is what Excel does. We've talked about calculation and data analysis. We talked about efficiency and effectiveness, how the knowledge of your Excel can be in the fastest possible time. Okay, all right, now let's look at certain terms that we'll be using. All right, you must have come across this. Talk about data analysis, business intelligence, raw data. These are some of the terms that I think we are familiar with without having so much assumption. So data analysis is basically converting raw data into a meaningful data so that you can make a decision. All right. Now, business intelligence is basically the same thing as data analysis, but in this context, it focuses more on business decisions. Okay. All right. So we have what we call raw data. Let me just show you an example of a raw data. Okay. So this is an example of a raw data. I have about 301. Right? It doesn't make any sense. Looking at this data, what I have here, I have email address, semicolon, quotation mark, and all of those, date, time, gender. All right. There's nothing that I can actually achieve with this data. It's very raw. Okay. So you must convert it into a meaningful data set like you have on the right side. All right. So what I did, and then we're going to do that, I think, in the fourth session, what we call data cleaning. All right. So you're going to clean your data. Cleaning data means you are changing the look, right? To make you're changing the look and making it becomes meaningful. So if you come here now and see this, of course, you should understand that this column talks about email addresses. This is date, this is time, and this is gender. All of these were in this data, but it doesn't make sense. All right. So I have to clean this data without having to be typing into the box one after the other. If not, imagine you have 301. It will take a lot of time, but in less than a minute, I am done. That's a minute. In 30 seconds, I am done changing this data, cleaning this data to become meaningful. So this is what we mean by raw data. This is what we mean by a proper data set. Okay. All right. So proper data set has what we call the field name, right? Let me show you a proper data set. Okay, so this is an example of a proper data set. All right, so your proper data set should have what we call the field name or header, all right? And the header tells you the type of data that is in that column. So now you can actually see every data you have here talks about transaction ID or transaction number. Okay, so I already know if I come here, I'm talking about date, and then this is the sales record, this are the sales reps. Okay, so every of this role is a record on its own. Okay, now records are in rows, and then you have each of the column with a field name. All right, and then so that's what we call proper data set. Now your proper data set has empty spaces all around it. You can see empty space at the top, empty space at the right, empty space at the bottom. Even on the left, where you have row numbers, Excel actually reads that as empty. Okay, so this is a proper data set. Three characteristics. One, it should have field names or row headers. Should have headers of field names. So your records go into each column, and then into the rows, and then you have the data sets surrounded by empty cells. Okay, so we'll see why we need to surround it with empty cells. But now let's compare this data set with this. Okay, so the previous one we have transaction ID, date, sales, and sales rep, but this we just have date, sales, and products. So who can tell us basically the difference between these two? What's the difference between this data set and this data set? All right, I think I even have my answer there, but I just want to see how we are flowing. So just post your answer in the box. Manuel says transaction number. Well, every data would not always have transaction. It depends on the kind of data, but there's something that is different between these two. There's a unique difference. All right, let's see answers. Post your answers in the box. Post your answers in the box. Okay. All right, anybody wants to try? All right, difference, I'm asking the difference between this data set, the whole of this, and the whole of this. You can actually look at the two. All right. Anybody wants to help? Primary key. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have what we call primary element or primary key or identifier. Okay, and then so that's what makes each record unique. So, for example, you have this. Now, imagine this is the price of a Brom TV or Brom AC or fridge or whatever Brom product, and then so this is the same amount that I sold here. Now look at it. They are the same, right? But they are not the same sales because I sold an item on this date for this price with this particular item, all right? I sold on the same date, the same type of product at the same amount, all right? But your transaction ID actually shows you, so every transaction has a unique ID. It doesn't have to be named transaction ID, okay? But it has a unique identifier that actually tells you that, hey, this record has this as a number, just like you have employee number or maybe your matric number in school that is very unique to you, all right? You can possibly have somebody that bears your name, and might even be in your department and your level, okay? But your matric number separates, it distinguishes between you and every other student in the school, all right? So that's a primary key or primary element, okay? So that's what I wanted to hear from us. All right, so again, if we want to make meaning from our data, we want to do stuff like sorting, filtering, advanced filtering, pivot table, Excel table features, or even enter Power Query, pivot table, and all of the rest. You know, you must first be able to convert your data into a proper data set. Okay, all right. It is then that you can now begin to advance. All right, so let's look at a table in Excel, a typical Excel table. All right, so I copied this from the previous document, sorry, from the previous worksheet. All right, so now look at this. This is a proper data set because one, it has field names, it has records in rows, all right? It is surrounded by empty cells, okay? You can actually see the empty cells on the left too, all right? So now I cannot do so much with this record still. So I need to convert this to a table, okay? And from the table, I can do other stuff like sorting, you know, filtering. I can convert to, I can make a pivot table and all of that, okay? So what do I want to do? I want to convert this to a proper Excel table, okay? So I click on anywhere on this proper data set, and then I'll go to insert. Now you can see on that table, you can actually see the shortcut is Control T. So I don't always have to come here, all right? So it's part of the efficiency. Once I click on anywhere on this data set, I can click Control T, okay? Now Control T opens up a dialog box and is asking you where is the data for your table, all right? So you can actually see the dot highlighted all around the table, okay? All around the data set. That's where my data is. And my data has it has headers. So that's why I will check this. Now, by the time I click OK, now watch what would happen to your proper data set. Automatically, it changes. It becomes a table. Now, before I progress, you can actually see up here, it says table 3. That's the default name for this table, but I want to name it, say, sales products prods, okay? Now, you don't leave a space. It is very advisable that every time you create a table, you should name it, all right? So I have named my, and I click enter, all right? Now, you can begin to do different stuff that you want to do now. So for example, I can filter under product to see Brom product only, okay? You can actually see Brom product only, there are just 2, okay? So I want to see the number of Brom products. So maybe within a month, I can also filter based on days, based on every other thing, you know. This is what a table, Excel table can afford you to do, all right? So you can see other features like you can sort, you can actually filter. Now, let me show you something under the date. For example, you can actually filter to see, okay, how many sales were made between so date and so date? How many sales did we make last week? How many sales did we make last month? How many sales did we make this week? You know, based on the kind of analysis that you want to do. This can only be done with the data sets having been converted to an Excel table, okay? So for example, every time I have new sales, I can always update this record. Now watch, I want to calculate the sum of the entire sales that I have made. Now you can actually see that the whole of them are in January, okay? All right, so I click on this place, all right? And then I do my alt equals, I'm telling Excel I want to make a sum calculation. Now it looks at the surrounding, it found this, all right? So you can actually see from the formula box, you can actually see that it shows you a name, right? Now I'll drag this down. Basically, what is happening is because I have named my table sales prod, okay? You can see the square bracket sales. It's telling you you are under the sales column, okay? All right, so that's why you are seeing this. If I had not named my Excel, it will just show you the cell number, maybe C8 to C19, okay? But because I have named my table, and then so it showed me that under this table name, this is a column that I am actually performing my calculation. So I hit enter. Now this is the sum of this calculation. I want to verify. Once you can highlight all of this and come down here, you can actually see at the bottom some of the numbers that you have highlighted. You can see, you compare this with this, you can see that they're the same. All right, so you can do other forms of calculation like your average. You can even count the number of sales that were made. Now, what interests me the most is that, say tomorrow I come and I want to add the new sales record, okay? So I just sold another LG product. Today is, okay, let's use another date in January. Let's say 7th, okay? Okay, let's use 20th of January 2020. Now, instead of clicking enter, pay attention. Note what would happen here. I'll click tab, okay? Once I click tab, sorry, I made a mistake here. It's 2020, okay? Once I click tab, I'm already telling Excel I want to add to this data record. That's the table, okay? So now I'm going to add, say 10, let me add 90,000. Before I click tab or enter, now I will not click enter, I will click tab, but before then, now watch what would happen at your cell for the summation, okay? All right, so once I click tab, it would update. Did you see that? All right, so I can now enter LG, and then so if you want to continue, you can continue making your calculation, but I want to click tab because I'm not adding any records to it again. All right, so this is what a table can afford. We can, from here, we can make our pivot table and run some calculation, and run some analysis. But pivot table is a topic on its own that we would talk about. So I don't want to run ahead of myself. I want to take us from the basic and gradually we'll move into the deeper topics and that we have. Okay. So I believe we are following. So we've been able to see what we can do with the raw data. We'll talk about data cleaning later, but we can see that a raw data can be converted to a proper data set, and you can make a table, okay? And then from there, you can begin to do your analysis. All right, so let's see examples of data types. So we have what we call data types, okay? Data types in Excel, we have basically 5 types of data types, 5 data types, as you would call it. For people that use Access, you know, there are a number of other types that are not on Excel. All right. So we have what we call tests. Like you see, I just typed Excel. Now you can see numbers. You can see 43. Now you can see what we call Boolean or logical data is actually aligned to the middle of the cell. All right. You can see error. This error, Okay, it's actually aligned to the middle. Now, all of these, they have significance, okay? They're not just there. So once you see a data that is aligned to the left, Excel sees it as a test, okay? So for example, if I type 200p, it's a test, not a number. So you can see that is aligned to the left, all right? Now you can see this number is aligned to the right. So every number is aligned to the right. Every test is aligned to the left. Boolean or logical data like true or false, even if you type it as a lowercase, it will be all cap, right? So for example, I typed true. Now watch what would happen, right? If I hit enter, it's actually going to the middle of the cell and is actually making it a cap, okay? All right, so that's how Excel sees logical data, all right? Logical data like true or false and all of that. If you come to your formula and then you go to logical formulas, you can see different types, false and if error, not or true or false and all of those. These are inbuilt functions that we'll use later on, all right? Next session, we'll be talking about Excel functions. So we'll dive deeper into some of these functions, all right? But the emphasis here is that alignment is very important in Excel, all right? So if your data is aligned to the right, Excel sees it in a certain way. If it aligns to the right, every alignment has a meaning to Excel. So it's not, they are not all the same, okay? All right, so for example, let's look at this data. Look at this data, if you compare it with the corresponding numbers on the same row, they look alike, all right? But I was trying to run a calculation here to also calculate the sum of this, but Excel is telling me that it is 0, all right? Now, who can tell us what exactly is happening, right? Because I was trying to sum this together and I'm getting 0. And I did the same here and I got 29,000 plus. All right, something is happening. All right, anybody wants to help? Anybody wants to help us? Anybody wants to help? Okay, nobody is attempting. Okay, Excel doesn't sit as a number. Thank you very much, Chinaza. Yes, Excel does not see this as a number. Automatically, you can have, we have what we call visual cue. So visual cue is already telling you where is this data aligned? Where are they aligned? Okay, they're aligned to the left. That means they're not numbers. Now they look like numbers, but they are actually not numbers. You click on each of these and you go to your formula bar, you can actually see an apostrophe, okay? Apostrophe in the front of any number would convert it to a text, okay? All right, so there are different ways to clean this, but let me just show you. We're not doing data cleaning right now, but one of the easiest way to actually do that is actually to press your equal to, then I'll just divide it by 1. Okay, it moves to the left, to the right automatically, okay? All right, so in Excel, just like any calculation, if you divide 1 million by 1, it will give you 1 million. If you divide 20 by 1, it will give you 20, okay? So that's what I've done. I've just cleansed this data now, all right, by converting it to a proper number because I divided by 1. So Excel, you can see that it aligns to the right. Now Excel can now see this as number. So if you highlight this, you can actually come down to see. It gives you the sum. But if I highlight this, it's only count. So it's only counting as test. So it's telling you I have found 5 data, but they are not numbers, so you cannot sum them up. All right. Unlike this, that you highlight and it shows you the sum, the average, and the count. Okay. So this is very important. Why do we need this? Because if you have a large chunk of data, or let's even say somebody sent a file to you, maybe your account statement or your payroll or your just any document peculiar to what you do. And then, you're trying to make sum, or these numbers are scattered in between your data, and you're not getting the exact figure, we will do under data cleaning how to find the errors and how to fix them, all right? So it is very important that we understand aligned, okay? So now let's look at other examples from data entry errors. I told you earlier that numbers align to the left, sorry, right. Numbers align to the right, text align to the left. But you can actually see dates, all right? So I just typed a date and it aligns to the left. Now, if you look at it very well, now look down, you see the format of my dates, all right? There are different formats that you can actually do for your dates, but you can actually see that my date format is day, month, and year, okay? So automatically, I use this formatting that I have actually done on my system, okay? So what Excel is seeing here is that you were trying to enter a date, but you were calling the month 13th. But what I wanted to type was 13th of July 2020, but I mistakenly typed 7th of the 13th month, whereas there's no 13th month, there's only 13th month in, is it salary now or bonus? You know, we say 13th month allowance, but actually on the calendar, there's no 13th month, okay? All right, so exactly things like text. Now, if I type 13/7/2020, it's going straight to the right. Okay, I made another mistake. Okay, 2020, enter 20, you can see automatically. All right, so now the next one is time, okay? Time. Now the mistake I made there, these are intentional mistakes, and then they are typical mistakes that we see on the data, all right? So I wanted to type the time of the day, and then I did not give a space between the o'clock and the AM, all right? So if I give a space, it's going straight to the right, all right? Because it's a number. We would actually see how to convert all of this to general format number very shortly. Now the next one is this. Let me just run us quickly through. I wanted to type 11.57. Now I typed the decimal twice, all right? So it is not a number anymore. It is a text. These are some of the errors by the time you are inputting, or maybe you copy your document from a notepad or another file, source file, you know, and you're bringing them into Excel. These are some of the mistakes. For example, the raw data I showed you earlier was not actually from Excel. It was from a website where forms were submitted, right? So the respondents, they submitted their email address, their gender, you know, and the system captured the time of entry and the dates, all right? So, and it put everything together that you saw here, all right? That's why we have this email date, all of that. Now, it doesn't make any sense until we converted it into proper data, all right? So by the time you are entering your data, some of these mistakes are bound to happen. Even the best of Excel users, they still make mistakes, okay? All right, but the ability to spot, and you don't have to scroll through your data of 1 million one after the other. There are typical ways that we can actually find them and fix them. You don't even have to locate them, but you can actually fix them on your data without having to even go to the cell that they are, all right? Now look at this. This is another example. This is aligned to the middle. All right. So what I want to do, these are the number of requisitions that came into finance department for this amount. But now, if I total this, it is more than this amount. You know, it means that this calculation is not correct. This number of requisition is actually more than 656. Now, in the whole sense of it, because I have put it at the middle, I've aligned to the middle, I cannot easily spot the mistake or the error, you know. So that's why it is advisable that you leave your data in the default alignment, okay, so that you can actually see. Now, if you go to home, here we have what we call number. This is a number group where you do different number formatting, okay. All right, you can actually see that it's general. So general means it does not have any of this type of formatting. It's neither a number or a currency or a date or a fraction or anything, all right? It's just no specific format, okay? So if I remove this, now I just removed the middle formatting. You can actually see that this number is aligned to the right. So that's why this calculation was not correct, okay? So if I enter 144, hit enter, you can see that it's actually 800. All right, so I'm just showing us some of these, but these are not actually how we'll be spotting the errors, but it's for us to actually know that these are the type of errors, these are the sources of errors on our data, okay? So we have what we call number formatting. All right, we'll just move to number formatting now. Okay, please, if you have questions on the things that we've discussed so far, please just post them in the box. I'll read and then I would ensure to answer, okay? All right, thank you very much. We have what we call number formatting, but before we even start and talk about the definition of formatting, now let's look at this. Okay, let me remove this. I'll just remove this and put that general. Now watch. This is 7, okay? This is 70, this is 72.39. Now this is 72.26. This is 72.4. This is 70, all right? This is 70, but it's showing 70.2.00. Now, what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make here is that there are two ways that you can actually view your number. So what is sitting inside the cell might actually not be what is displaying at the surface, okay? All right, so for example, we have 70.00, but if you look at the formula bar, you're actually seeing 70, there's no decimal, all right? If you look at this, it's showing you 4 decimal places, all right? 77 points. So here, what you are seeing at the surface has actually been approximated. I just did that by reducing it here, by increasing it here or reducing it here, all right? But it doesn't change what is sitting underneath the cell, all right? Now, let's look at another example. If you look at this and look at this. Now, I want you to tell me the difference because when I try to do the sum total, it's giving me 99. But here, I'm actually seeing 100. So does it mean that 25 is no longer equal to 25? 50 is no longer equal to 50? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, Moshood, I will answer your question very shortly, please. How did you name the table to stop showing before? Okay, I'm not sure I understand this. Okay, so anybody wants to attempt? How did you get 99 here and then 100 here? Meanwhile, we have 25, 25, 50, 50, on 10, 10, 15, 15. Anybody? Anybody? Are we together? Let's interact, okay? Okay, thank you, Lord, to say. That number that's okay says 100 might not be here. They have okay. Let's see other other entries. Let's see other answers. Okay, anybody wants to add to what Oluwatosin actually said? Anybody? Decimal points. Okay. All right. Okay. So without wasting time, let me just show us. But okay, Mark says, I'm guessing there was a formula put in place that gave different approximation. Okay. Now, so if you look at this, basically it should be 100 because 25 plus 50 is 75 plus 10, that's 85 plus 15, that's 100, but it's actually 99. All right. Now it doesn't really make so much sense because it's just one. But imagine if you have 1 million, you have 10 million naira in your account, and you have 100 million naira in your account, and your bank is telling you that it's 99 million. You know, it could be very funny. Okay, so what happens is you can actually check the number formatting to see what is sitting under the cell. Okay, so for example, we have 25 here, but if you check the formula bar, it's actually not 25, it is 24.5. So you can actually see that 24.5 is not the same as 25. Now the next one is actually 49.5. So you can actually see that it decreased by 0.5. This also decreased by 0.5. And that's what made up for that one that is missing from 100. Okay. So what we are saying is that what sits at the surface of your cell does not necessarily mean that that is what is underneath the cell. All right. So that's why we say number formatting is a facade. Facade means that it is not real. Okay. Okay, so it can be beautiful outside and then inside is ugly. Okay, all right. So this was actually approximated. It was actually approximated. This was what it was actually. This is what it was. All right, and so you can actually see that it is not 100. It is, in fact, it is not 99 because this also was approximated. It was 98. Now you can keep on increasing it to your desired number of decimals. But the point here is that you must pay attention to what is on the surface and what is under. And to now surprise you, Excel does not make calculations based on what you are seeing at the surface. Okay, Excel makes calculation based on what is under the cell. Okay, what is inside the cell itself. All right, so that's why we say formula make the calculation on the actual number in the cells, not the numbers that are displayed on the very surface. All right, let's move on. We have about 30 more minutes or less to actually go, and we still have a number of things to talk about. But don't forget, I told you, we would only attempt to cover what we can cover in the time frame, in the 90 minutes that we have. All right, but there are other ways we can actually improve the conversation to ensure that we are actually able to learn as much as we should learn from our modules. And then one of them is the assignment method. So we would have an assignment which would guide you with the help of this exercise. It will guide you into performing all of the things that you've been attempting. Now, look at this. Every time you come to Excel and you type control semicolon, you're actually asking Excel to produce today's date. All right, so here I want to write today's date. Instead of writing, I just press control semicolon. I have my date. Today's date is 30th of August 2020. If I come tomorrow and I punch in control semicolon, it will not give today, Sunday's date. It will give tomorrow, 31st. Okay, all right. But another interesting thing is, for example, if I type the same thing here, now look at this. I want to go to number formatting. I've been coming here right from beginning, but there are different ways to come here. All right, instead of having to come here, I can press Control 1. So if you press Control 1, it opens your dialog box, your format cell dialog box, where you can do your formatting. Okay, right. So I want to format this date. I just want to change from date to general. I click OK. Wow, something changed. I can tell you this is still today's date. Okay, all right. So basically, what happens is dates are numbers, and they are calculations of the number of dates from December 31st, 1899. Okay, so Excel, the default setting of Excel is that it calculates dates. So today, 30th of August, is actually 41,073 days from December 31st to 1899. Okay, so 1st of January 2000 is actually 1 in Excel. So every number in Excel can be converted to a date. It has a date equivalent. Now, let me show you another example. If I type 2,500, it's actually a number. But if you look at it, it can be now no specific format, because it can be 2,500 naira, it can be 2,500%, it can be a date, it can be a currency, it can be number, it can just be number, maybe number of people in the community, But I want to convert this to a date, okay? So with my Control 1, another way to come here, let me cancel this, is to right click on this cell. Now it should come up. Right click on this cell. All right, and you come to format cells. Format cells. So I've shown you 3 ways to actually engage the format cell dialog box. One is right click here, come here. Number 2 is to press Control 1. It will open this automatically. Number 3 is to actually come here. You can open here, and then click on more. It will also open the box for you. Number 4 is to actually click on this number. All right, this is a group, it will open. So there are 4 amazing ways. There could be other ways to actually open this, but for me, once I press Ctrl+1, it opens automatically. So I converted this. Initially it was a number 2,500. Now let's convert this to a short date. Let me close this and come here, convert to a short date. Now, amazingly, Excel is saying the number is showing 4th of November 1906. So it means 4th of November 1906 was actually 2,500 days away from December 1st, 1899. I hope you understand. So because we're going to do some calculations based on dates and time and all of those, okay? So for example, let's look at this calculation. I have an invoice that was dated 21st of August, and the day is 30th. Now I want to see, so I was meant to make this payment on this date, but I have not made the payment. So I want to calculate the due date, all right? So basically what I would do is to just subtract this smaller one from the larger one, okay? It's showing you 9 days. So it means I am 9 days away from the due date. So I was supposed to make this payment 9 days ago, all right? Now, basically what is happening here, if you convert this back to numbers, now let's just say numbers or general, let me use general, okay? You see 44,064, and this is showing 44,073. So it's actually subtracting this, the lower one, from this. All right, so that's why we have 9, okay? Now let's look at another example. This is the date that we started the project, and then we ended the project just yesterday, 29th. So I want to know how many days did it take us to run this project. Basically what you do is to subtract the smaller from the larger, but now you're not going to press equal because you are also including the project end day, all right? So you're going to add 1. It's going to add that particular day that you subtracted. When you click, sorry, there's an error. Oh, okay, there's a minus. Okay, all right, so this is it. I can see +1. Okay, I didn't enter the 1. All right, so you can see from this formula, I am subtracting this lower. You can see the color coding, the blue and the red or wine. All right, so this is how to calculate. And when I enter, it tells us that the project actually took us 131 days. Okay, all right. Another one is you're trying to calculate the maturity days for a loan. Okay, all right. So this loan was issued on this date, and then the number of days that you're meant to actually pay. So we want to calculate the maturity date. If the maturity date is actually 10 days away from the date the loan was issued, say I actually borrowed money from Rent Money or Pay Later or any of those platforms, and I'm meant to pay back in 10 days time. All right, so I want to calculate the date. What I would do is to actually add this plus this. Okay, just as simple as that. So it shows you that on the 30th of May 2020, the loan was due for payment. That was the maturation. That's the maturity date for this payment. All right. So I hope that you are following. Okay. So it's very important that we pay attention to number formatting. Taking cognizance of what is sitting underneath under our cells and what is displaying at the surface, so that we don't get carried away by what is sitting at the surface. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, so let's run to other examples. There's what we call custom number formatting, but we'll not talk about this. I believe you read this up and it's very explanatory. From that Ctrl+1, you can actually come here and custom anything you want. Whether you want to add the $sign, you want to add a naira, you want to add decimal, you want to add time, different things that you can actually do under this custom function. Okay, all right. So these are just examples. For example, I can convert this to a day. It will just show the day of, Thursday. This 7th is actually a particular day of the week. All right. So it can actually show. I can see if I come to custom, it's actually showing me the format of this day. But what if I press DDD? Okay, it's actually showing as Friday. Yes, that day is a Friday, But it's not just Friday, it's a particular day of the month of a particular year. But maybe you are creating a schedule of your calendar, and then you don't need to be seeing all the dates. You just want to see the particular day of that week. So you can actually do the custom number formatting, and then it shows you the particular day of that week. All right. So these are just examples of custom number formatting. All right. This is another interesting we should talk about. So we have what we call formulas in Excel. All right. So I mentioned earlier, every time you enter your equal sign, you are telling Excel, hey, Excel, I want to make a calculation, all right? Or I want to do a calculation, all right? But there are certain calculations that are inbuilt in Excel. So we call them inbuilt functions, all right? So for example, your sum that we did earlier, okay? An example. Now, so we have all formula types, which could be number. It's not only numbers that you actually run formulas with. You can run formulas with tests. You can run formulas with logical or Boolean data. You can run on lookup formulas, arrays, aggregates, you know, and all of those. We are going to consider all of this in examples, not just today, but in subsequent sessions, okay? But it's very important for us to know that, okay, these are the major types of formulas in Excel that we have, okay? All right, so we have formula elements. So formula elements are the particular stuff that you punch into your cell. All right, so one of them is the equal sign. We've talked about this. Another one is a reference. So you could see earlier when I wanted to do the tax calculation on the training costs, I had to reference the particular cell where the tax rate was spotted, and then the other cell where the cost for that training was actually put. All right, so I had to reference. Referencing means you are going to where those data and then actually picking them up, just like you actually write a reference other books where you actually pick points from. Okay, all right. So we have data formula nomenclature. We'll talk about this later on. We have what called math operators. The math operators are your plus, your minus, your multiplication, addition, parentheses, and all of those. Okay, your numbers are what we've done earlier. For example, I mentioned you want to add 24, which is 24 hours in a day, because that number would not change. So if they won't change, you can actually enter them into that cell. Okay. All right. So we have built-in functions. When you come to Excel formula, under formula menu, you can actually see a whole lot of inbuilt functions, logical, test, date and time. These are some of the things that we'll talk about. You know, these are more. We can have statistical formulas and functions, you know, and a whole lot of others based on the kind of thing. So for example, under statistical functions, you want to calculate average, you want to do main, mode, you want to see the frequency, you want to see, for example, maybe we have a data that shows sales reps. I want to see a particular sales rep that sold the most, you know. So you can use some of these functions, you know, have comparative operators. Comparative operators are your equal signs. You know, you want to find, is this greater than, or is it equal to, is this less than, is it not, you know, and all of those. We have array constant. We're going to do array calculations later on. You know, test within quotation. In your test formulas, you can actually put tests, and then, you know, you put them in quotation marks. And then, so every time you put a test in quotation, you're already telling Excel that I'm actually making a formula from test, using test. All right, so we have what called style formatting. So we've talked about 3 types of formatting now: number formatting, custom formatting, and style formatting. So style formatting, we will not dwell much, but if you pay attention to this sheet that I have been opening all the while, there are so many things that are very common. So for example, anywhere I am making a point, I actually use this particular color. That's just my own point. That's what I wanted, okay? Anywhere I want to show an example with my field name, I use this color, and for my data record, I actually put them in rules, and then, you know, I use this color. If I want to do a calculation, I use this color. You know, that's just my own way of formatting. All right, so we'll not go deeply into how you actually format, because formatting in itself is very creative, and so it's based on your taste of your taste for colors and all of those. So when you go to your home, you can have, just like you have in PowerPoint and the Microsoft Word, you can go to your font group, and then you can actually change color for your text, change color for your theme, create different based on what actually suits you. Now, if you don't want to come here from your control one, say I'm here, control one, okay, I can actually come here, fill, and actually change whatever I want to change, your font, your alignment, borders, and all of those. It's still the same thing. If I had opened it from here, it will also show me some of these things that I actually want. So based on what you want, right, you can actually style your document. But there are three basic things I want to talk about. Right. Number one is that you should use minimal amount to effectively deliver your message. You should not litter your document, your data with different colors, different color header for this, different color header for this. It should be uniform. So for example, you can see this has the same color with this. All right. This is white background. Anywhere I want to do the sum or I want to add something, I use this color. Okay. All right. So that's basically what we are talking about. Be consistent, and then ensure that all numbers have the same digits. So you can see these numbers are sales record, okay? So they have the Naira sign, there's no decimal, okay? So you cannot be having decimal for this, and maybe decimal for this. Is not uniform. So you can actually see my data. I have the product names, I have the employee's name, I have the amount of products that is sold. Okay. All right. So these are just examples. You can actually read them up. I would add some additional notes to this. All right. So formula, we're going gradually to the end of the session. All right. So, but before I talk about formula examples, let me run you through. Okay. So I've talked about formula types. Let me run you through examples from all of this that we talked about, all of this that we talked on this cell. Okay. All right. So we have an insurance amount to pay. Say I pay this amount 60,500 every year as insurance. Say maybe for my car insurance, and then there's a possibility that I can make the payments monthly. So I want to be able to calculate how much I would pay per month. It's very simple. It's just your equal sign and a cell reference to this amount, just like we did for the training cost earlier. So you have your what's it called? Your equal sign. Now watch. When I pick this and I divide, I'm about to divide by the month in the year. And because 12 is a fixed number of months, next year we would have 12 months, 2025 will have 12 months. So every year will always be 12 months. That's why I would enter 12. Now, if it would change, if it's a number that would change, basically what I would do is to probably have it somewhere here, like I have this tax rate, and then I would label it and make reference to it also. So by the time it changes, I will update it, my record updates automatically. But because this is a fixed data, so I can always say, okay, so every month I will pay this amount, and by the end of the year, I would have paid this amount. So these are examples of calculation, normal formula calculations. All right, so this is another example, right? This might be very basic to you, depending on your competency level on Excel right now, but I bet you this is not so easy for a number of persons. When I ran through the registration data, and I saw, for example, if somebody had rated himself 1, 2, 3, or even 5 in Excel, so it means there's a limit to what is known. And like I mentioned earlier, the goal is that by the end of the entire 4 sessions, you should be able to have increased your competency level. So if you're at 5, or if you were at 3 before we started, I mean, you should try as much as possible to attain, say, 5 or 6, and if you're at 6 already, you should be able to attain maybe 8 or 7, but I mean, you are able to actually increase your knowledge level. All right, so look at this example. I want to, these are monthly gross salary for these employees, and I want to make deductions the tax deductions from their salary, because tax rate is not fixed, because next month a legislation can come out and say, okay, we have a tax relief, and say, okay, it's no longer 14%, it's now 7%. I cannot always go into my records. Maybe I want to prepare this and I have to be typing 14%, go to the next person 14%. No, because this is a number that is bound to change. Okay. So basically what I would do, we're going to talk about reference, different type of reference in module 3. All right. But basically what I am doing here, two types of references that I'm actually doing. All right. So I'm picking this up and then I'm multiplying by this. Now watch, if I would go down, okay, I want this C16 to have become C17, but I don't want F16 to have become F17, because F17 is empty. I don't need anything down here. So it's only F16 that I need. So you do what we call lock. You just press your F4. Now F4 is going to put, oh, sorry, it's supposed to be ones. Okay. Yeah, so you press your F4, it will put your $sign and locks this. So it means when anywhere you're copying this to, this would not change. Okay, now when you enter, all right, it gives you for this, you can actually see, all right, and then we have what we call undo field. So you see this plus, it changes. Once you come here and you double click, all right, okay, something is happening that I didn't pay attention to. Okay, okay, all right, something is happening. Oh, okay, 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 okay. Okay, apologies. I just fixed this now. All right, so now let me undo. All right, so you can see I just picked this. Let me do it again. I just picked this up. All right, so I meant to fix it. It's just once. I was supposed to click once. Okay, I think I clicked more than once. All right, and enter. All right, and then double click yes. All right, so even if you have 10,000 of data of employees on this row, once you double click on that plus, you're on that cross sign, it's already automatically calculates your deductions. All right. So this another example of cell referencing with normal formula calculations, but we're not talking about data cell referencing at the moment. But we're just showing us examples of how these calculations actually made. Okay, let me skip this because I have enough that I can explain it. All right. So another interesting one here is I have this, say I'm the manager for this department and I have 10 employees or 10 team members, and these are the appraisal scores for that appraisal period. But I want to be able to see the employees that actually met expectations in terms of performance, the ones that excelled, all right, and then the ones that are actually below expectation, all right. So I created this, and then so all you do is to use VLOOKUP. Now we're not talking about VLOOKUP in details now, but this, since we are actually using an example of a VLOOKUP, let me just explain briefly what lookup basically is actually to look a value on item hub. So what I'm doing, or what I wanted to do here is I have this appraisal score. I want to see, okay, did this person meet expectation? I don't always want to be typing satisfactory. Now go to the next one, no. So I have this table here. There is not yet a table. I have this data record that can help me look up this figure here or an approximate match, just like we have it here, either the exact match or the approximate match. And once it sees the approximate or the equal match, it can tell you the property and bring that property here. Okay, so I can see this guy 4.51. Now I have formatted that, okay, 4.5 and above actually excelled. Okay, so I can see here, all right, so it shows that it actually looked up this figure from this table array, and so we'll look at how to actually do the calculation, but I'm just showing us examples of all of the calculation options that Excel can afford us. Another example is this. So you have these guys, and we're meant to sell 35,000. So once you sell 35,000 naira of a product, you qualify for a bonus. Okay. All right. Let me just undo. Okay. No, I can just show you. All right. Because of time. So basically what I did was to say, okay, is this greater or equal to this? And if yes, now give me this 75. Okay, this 750. So I can use Excel to calculate. This is an example of using the inbuilt function of a logical test and then using cell references, but I'm also adding comparative operator. Comparative operator is the greater than or equals to sign, all right, and then absolute cell reference. All right, so this is another example that we can have. And with efficiency level that we talked about earlier, you cannot always come and say, okay, this is less than 35,000, doesn't meet up, you type it, and this, you type it manually. No, you can actually run your calculation based on just this simple data set, and then you have your complete data, okay? All right, so next that we have is this. Okay, so look at this. I want to be able to, I want to confirm if this is actually equals to this, all right, without even having to look at anything here. So what I do is click your equals to pick this and another equal sign and this. Now click enter. It shows false, okay? So it means at the surface, you are just seeing this, but underneath, they are not the same, okay? So this is a logical calculation. I'm comparing this with this and it's returning false, okay? So I can then go ahead to see what is happening, why this is not actually equal to this. All right, so it is 5:32. Time is gone already. We're supposed to close this session at 5:30. Okay. Let me see what we can run through. Okay, let me share with us the link for the attendance. Okay, so if you have attended this, the attendance sheets would help us to know the people that not just registered but actually filled the attendance. So it tells us that, okay, you actually attended this session. All right, so please, I'll paste this in the comment box right now. All right, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Zoom, you can actually you can fill in you can follow the link to submit your attendance registration, all right? So because I know that a number of persons actually registered, you know, and so it's very important because I know that because it's a free session, so registering does not mean that you would attend, right? But the attendance sheet would help us to know the people that legitimately attended the session. Okay, so I'm pasting also on the Zoom chat box. So if you have a question, please post to me. All right, thank you, Solomon, for pasting that already. Okay, so if you have a question, please post your question, and then we'll just answer this in the shortest time, and then we'll call it an evening. Okay, thank you once again for staying tuned. I know we have different activities, but you're able to actually still stay all through to this period. Okay. All right. So let's see if we have questions. Okay. Please paste the link again. I just pasted again. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So some persons are actually helping to share. Okay. So when I'm sending you the assignments from this course, from this particular session, I will send you the link to rewatch the video. Okay. All right. So you can actually watch the video again. All right. And you run through your assignment as well. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Was that somebody asked? Okay. Okay, empty cells. Chinaza, empty cells. So what's the importance of an empty cells around your data? Okay, empty cells around your data is one of the requirements to making your data a proper data set, okay? If not, by the time you are converting to table and you want to run pivot table, you want to create a pivot table and all of those, there might be errors because those borders actually meant to be empty so that your pivot table can run accurately. Okay, so that's the importance. Okay, it's not clicking. Can anybody assist Faith? Says it's not clicking. Okay, it's very short. It's a very short, so I had to even shorten the link. You can actually watch it and type it in the browser. Okay. All right. So I want us to do that before I close the meeting so that we can be sure to have actually submitted our attendance for the day. Okay. All right. Okay. So now you're on YouTube, on Zoom, the link has been pasted. Okay, the link has been pasted. Please ensure to, yes, another person is also helping to repaste it. You can just copy. If you're using mobile, you can just type directly. Please pay attention to the case. It's actually case sensitive. Okay. God can you post your question? All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. In the absence of any other question, you can actually leave once you are able to copy and then confirm that the link is actually working. You can actually leave the meeting and then so we'll close the session very shortly. Thank you once again for joining. The other batches, I had a session earlier in the day and then it was also very encouraging. All right, so I will be communicating with us via emails, basically. All right, so please, your email might drop. The email might drop in your spam folder. So please ensure to, you can actually even filter to move it to your main inbox so that when the mails from those email addresses actually come, they can actually come directly to your inbox, all right, so that you don't lose them in the ocean of spam mails. All right. Somebody says the link is not working. Can anybody confirm that the link has worked? Has the link worked for you? It should work. All right, it should work. Yeah, it's working. Thank you, Fumilayo. All right. Yeah, it should work. It should work. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. So once you feel that, so I'm expecting to have us again on Saturday. So we have 3 more sessions to go: Saturday, Sunday, and upper Saturday. Beg your pardon. All right. So don't miss any of these sessions because we have more interesting topics to actually discuss. Okay, today is actually fundamentals. Running through your formatting, your types of data sets, and the rest of that. There's one thing that we didn't talk about, and that's formula errors, and that was very intentional. So we'll talk about it in the next class. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody, for your time. We've come to the end of this session. Now you can also feel free to email me. All right. I would be glad to respond to your email. All right. If you have any area of this particular topics that we've discussed so far, and then you want more clarifications, you can always converse. Okay, thank you very much. Have the best of the week. All right, thank you. So you can leave the meeting as you will. Okay. All right, bye.